Hello and welcome to the Sorted Post-Purchase Podcast. I'm Shaun Weston and today I'm joined by Paul Hill, Director of Product at Sorted. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hi Shaun, glad to be here, thank you.
Okay, so today we're getting into the concepts of the digital franchise and digital dealership and how they apply to the logistics and delivery industry. But Paul, you've mentioned to me before that Toyota was a great example to sort of explain these ideas. So could you tell us why the car manufacturing industry is a good model for understanding the concept of the digital dealership and digital franchises?
Yeah, so there's, I guess the reference point is the Toyota way, which is very, very well documented and well kind of published over the years. But there's sort of a few things that link together that kind of took me to using that as an example or a metaphor for our business. So looking at theory of constraints and reading things like The Goal, there's a lot of comparisons between digital software production and physical manufacturing, and that a lot of the concepts around how to scale your business, how to achieve flow so that your business is producing the optimum outcome on a regular basis has been cracked by people like by Toyota producing physical products. So what we've been trying to do is to use those concepts to say our direction of flow in the business is exactly a production line. So it starts in the product studio where we come up with the ideas for how we're going to craft the product. We set that down as design principles and design requirements that are filtered down to our digital factory, and then the digital factory, once it's produced its outcomes of products for us, then that moves on then to the digital dealership, and that's probably a concept that most people start to pick up on. Is I get what a dealership does. That kind of sells me the vehicles, and it also services and looks after the vehicles. So concept is really similar, just in a digital format.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a little bit of swapping going on here, because even though Toyota may be an outlier for your example, the car industry has taken some time to get used to how they could package the selling of cars using digital means, while we're doing sort of the reverse. We're digital experts, but we're kind of talking about it in a physical sense, and we're stealing ideas from one another a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the challenges that most software and IT system providers will face is it's a very ethereal thing. It's not easy to put your hands on the software and the outcomes and the value that's delivered. So by thinking of it in more physical terms, I think it helps people kind of connect with the whole journey of manufacturing and then distribution of that service, even though it's somewhat invisible. It's packaged up in a digital sense.
Yeah, and I suppose the outcomes for both markets, for both industries, are going to be the same. So it's about leveraging technology to create a more efficient and engaging experience for the business and the customer.
Yeah, we've always tried to put ourselves right at the centre of the triangle that is consumers, retailers, and carriers. We're the central kind of pivot point for all of those things, and genuinely always looking to balance the equation so that everybody is feeling value out of the situation. There's probably a lot of situations where there's a more binary relationship where some kind of value is trying to be leveraged, and the person who's doing that is obviously selling that to a market that's willing to pay for that. So for us, it's a bit more diversified. So we've got to provide something for everybody, really, the consumer, retailer, and the carrier.
All right, well, let's stick with the car analogy for the moment, or at least the dealership side of it, and then we'll try and drive away from it. But the idea that you go to a car dealership now, or actually you go online and you can customize your car, choose what color it is, delivery date, and all that sort of thing. It's giving a lot of power to the customer in terms of how they shape the end product. And I suppose that's what we want to do as well, is create that sort of customizable SaaS platform. Am I right?
Yeah, very much. Let's see we draw some comparisons. If you're reading through a brochure for a particular vehicle, you might expect to pick some of the items that you just mentioned. The interior color. Does it have aircon? Does it have certain wheel packages? We've got in excess of 100 public-facing API methods for our products. That's a lot of options. That's an awful lot of things that provide that customizable ability to integrate with our software. So what we've got to try and do is yes, allow consumers and our retailers to have that freedom of choice, but also guide them in a way that says these are very complementary ways of working. That particular color works particularly well with that interior, for instance.
Yeah, they say this in retail at the moment. There's the white T-shirt effect where you can go to an online retailer, type in white T-shirt, and you get way too many, and you become a bit blinded by it, and you abandon your cart because of it, because you're not being guided through the process. So that's quite a big deal, isn't it? We're giving the ability to customize, but also almost like what would you call it? What do you call it? A personal shopper kind of
Yeah,
approach to
yeah,
navigate through the process at their own pace.
yeah. Someone to guide you through.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long, long time ago when I worked in much further, deeper inside warehousing and logistics, we were ordering a new car for the fleet for the chairman at the time, and the options that he chose when we actually went to the dealership to order that car, they actually said no. That is not, even though we could do it, that those set of options are not going to work. It will not present a pleasing vehicle that we'd be proud to put the brand to. So they guided us towards some different options, and sometimes always saying yes to the person who's taking up those services isn't always the right answer. So just being careful to guide users in the right direction to kind of put together those options is what we're setting out to do.
How are we going to do that then? How are we going to approach that tailored approach to the customer, and what drives it?
So our approach is to use we use so let's take our core product. So in the ship space, we use templated integration designs. Now we've got some kind of pithy names for some of these things, but just so people can make an easy reference to them. But we bundle together those methods. We match them to the ways in which a customer has detailed to us that they work. But we can also make recommendations, and do often make recommendations to say, look, let's start with that particular design. But because you work in this certain way, then we'll drop off these two extra calls at the end, replace them with these three different methods, and modifying and customizing that integration design then hopefully more closely matches the requirements of the customer, makes them feel better about the service that's provided. Really similar in the track space, so very much in the post purchase segment, providing tools and lots of recommendations on ways of using those tools. So it's all about configuration and all about selecting the right time and the right message to deliver to the consumer. So it doesn't always have to be that the delivery's gone off the rails or raise the alarm. There's more suggestive ways of communicating that to the consumer if we suspect, for instance, that a delivery is going to be late. It doesn't have to be always quite so black and white that this is late, this has failed.
It's how we deal with the sheer amount of data analytics the customer gets and that we get during the process, I guess. And this is making it better so that you can really. It's driven. The tailored approach is driven by the data analytics, I guess, but in a better way than has previously been practiced.
Yeah, in the information age, as it were, every single movement within a carrier network, for instance, is tracked. It will be matched against a specific action. That action's turned into data. The data's pumped out. It becomes information at some point, but there's almost too much. So being sympathetic to what's important, what's not. Is there a certain pattern that's just been established? Is that pattern a concerning one? Does this potentially lead to a delay? It's about taking that wholesale data, turning it into information, applying some knowledge, and then you eventually arrive at the wisdom stage of knowing what to do and when to do it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, adopting the digital franchise and digital dealership model appears to be about improving customer experience, as we've talked about the benefits for them. But there are also significant benefits for service providers like us at Sorted. Can you walk us through some of these benefits?
Yeah, so for us, let's make it all about us for a second. But
Let's do that.
yeah, for us, it gives us a scalable and repeatable model. So by thinking in exactly the same way that a franchise model would, which is creating a menu, sticking to that menu, really honing the skills of what it takes to deliver on that and deliver consistently. That's a message that we want to really embed in the business. So whereas there's often there can be a very clear mission brief, but then so many players in that particular act of delivering and trying to achieve that goal that there's often a scrabble for share of budget, allocation of resources, those kinds of things. But by breaking that up into a digital franchise model, each segment of that franchise understands what their operating budget is, how they deliver upon their segment of that particular franchise delivery piece. So it's really kind of old school values of how to make it scalable and repeatable, but actually make it really transparent to each of the franchisees within that supply chain of what they've got to work with. And it should all be measured upon basically the number of units sold and the happiness of the customers that are receiving those units.
And the two biggest benefits being what comes from that, which is probably operational efficiency and cost savings.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, efficiency is the centre of everything. Listening to the consumers, they want choice, but really, it's that's only half a level up from efficiency anyway. Finding the right carrier to do a job, finding the most effective methods of communication. It's all about efficiency. I don't think the human being doesn't like to be kind of scattergunned with either semi-accurate information or sometimes false information. It's what we like to hear is succinct, to the point, and effective. And I think that's the sort of the inner craving from everyone, really, is the consumer, the retailer, and the carrier.
Well, I hope this short interview has been succinct and effective for listeners out there. So thanks for breaking down these concepts for us, Paul. We've covered a lot in a short time, but I think we've kind of set the stage for further discussions as these things evolve, and we'll talk more about it. And I hope you'll join us again as the Sorted division continues to evolve.
Indeed. Thanks, Shaun.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast and my chat with Paul. If you have any questions about the concepts of the digital dealership or digital franchise, leave a comment below or visit sorted.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, X and Instagram. So until next time.